So moving on then, for every architect, the big prize, of course, is your architectural design project winning that new commission. But before you start any work on the project, you as the architects have to be in the right place with your client. And you'll see why this is so important as I graduate through the video here. This means having some formal arrangement with your client. I know I mentioned that very quickly earlier on, but now I'm coming into the nitty-gritty on this particular aspect. The big prize for every architect is winning that project and, of course, being appointed. And depending on how advanced you are in your architectural career will indicate, of course, the nature or type of project that's in question. For instance, your big prize project might be a simple residential project, which is where many of us begin, or it could be a project of more substance in size and complexity, which is where we all want to arrive at, and some of us are fortunate enough to get those opportunities. In my architectural career, I've done many different types of projects, both as an employed architect, as a salaried architect, and as a partner in a large London practice I mentioned earlier on, and finally as principal of my own practice, which I led for over 35 years. Whatever type of project really you may be targeting, it means, of course, you are doing it for real. Now this means having some understanding of what is involved when it comes to managing the processes for taking your project from the beginning to the end. Now, doing it for real as an architect in practice also means you will have an architect's appointment already in place with your client. That's the reality of it. Your architect's appointment might be for the entire project, covering all the RIBA work stages, or it might be up to a certain work stage initially, which is not uncommon. Your appointment might also mean a simple exchange of letters, let's say, between you and your client, setting out your terms on what professional services your clients can expect from you. And with either of these in place, you are ready to get to work on an you're ready to get to work. Let me get my thoughts clear. You're ready to get to work on your architectural design project for real. You're also, of course, complying with the ARB rules, which is very important for every qualified architect. And this means making sure you have your professional indemnity insurance in place also. Now, I'm covering this professional indemnity topic in a future tutorial, so I won't go into detail here, except to say that before you start a project, you need to have that in place. There is a minimum insurance, professional indemnity insurance cover that you have to have in place. So again, we're still focusing on the big prize, but in this particular section here, I want to refer to the RIBA plan of work stages. Now, as a qualified architect in practice, you might be in practice as an employed architect or as a salaried architect, I referred to that earlier, within an architectural firm, or you might be starting out in your own architectural practice. Either way, when you are qualified, you are working as an architect. You are in practice, in actual fact, and therefore take on the responsibilities of a practicing professional. Consequently, there is a process for you to follow as a practicing architect. At this point, I want to highlight again that your project will follow a process. I keep highlighting the word process and being organized. Indeed, every project follows a process, and this is a very important aspect for every practicing architect to get a grip of from the beginning. Your project does not begin with you starting to produce design ideas immediately. That comes later, and I'll cover that later when I come on to talk about the right time for doing conceptual design development. The process begins, therefore, for the architect with the RIBA plan of work stages. They're really a good reference point. So it starts really with plan of work stage 0, and your project will follow through all the work stages, ending with work stage 6, which is the project handover. And this is really when you issue your final certificate. This is a big moment for an architect because it has big responsibilities attached to it as well. Now, whilst Workstage 7 deals with the building usage, but the main event for the architect is arriving at Workstage 6 as handover. This is the point where you are signing off the building with your final certificate as being fit for occupation, and confirming also the building fulfills your design intention and specification. So you can see why it's important. So using the RIBA plan of work, I'm going to focus on the first 3 work stages. That is where you will see the process relating to the beginning of the project with your client and preparing a planning permission for a planning decision. Let's here have a look at these work stages and project the delivery process within each of these work stages. Your project will be taken through a series of events and activities, all of which form that process I keep referring to. The nature and extent of the process you will have to follow for your project will be dictated by its size, level of complexity, or the degree of specialization, or a combination of all these factors. By following the RIBA work stages, however, you will have a clear roadmap to follow. It's a very good way of just keeping yourself organized. I know we all deviate in various aspects, and in many ways that can be dictated by the activities of the project, but you should have a clear sort of grounding on where you're going, what your roadmap is, and you can, of course, you can take a side turn to achieve X, Y, and Z, but you must come back to the main roadmap that I've referred to earlier, which is the RIBA work stages. But just getting back to where I want to deliver on this video, finally on matters relating to delivering the overall development project, it is important to note that irrespective of your project size, complexity even, and specialism, etc., you will still adhere to the RIBA work stages as a process template to follow. I believe it is a good way to follow. Now, I know for this video we're focusing on just stages 0, 1 and 2. They're the first 3 stages that I mentioned earlier. I know it goes on into technical design and also detailed design, and then the RIBA stages will take you through to the tendering process. That's all part of the process. So they include essentially the technical and detailed design, as I said, detailing with tendering. I'm just sort of collecting my thoughts again, and indeed construction on site, and all that will entail, and that's something else. Again, all these topics I will cover in future tutorials and videos because they are separate issues that crop up, and each one of them have a story to tell. Now, I expect many of you creatives watching this video are already acquainted maybe with the RIBA work stages, but sometimes if you are a new practitioner functioning on the front lines, as it were, you may not be too certain about the importance of starting off with your client correctly and how that's done, and maybe you are not fully alert or skilled enough in how to avoid leaving yourself exposed, professionally that is, of course, as a consequence.